Yo, what is going on, Cover One crew? Hope everybody is good. Welcome back to the show. Today we're diving into draft guide on Alvin Kamara, and I get it, okay? This has been a hot topic for me. I've been super uber promotive of an Alvin Kamara. A lot of y'all jumping off the bandwagon, and I don't understand why, okay? I get it. The dreaded 30 years old is coming, so a lot of y'all fading him down the board, but when we discuss what he is and what he has done in the NFL thus far in his NFL tenure, I mean, you still can't get off this bandwagon, especially what the New Orleans Saints have on this offense. They didn't do anything abundant to, make confusion in this running back room. I know a lot of y'all want Kendre Miller to be something, but don't jump off the Alvin Kamara bandwagon, especially for where we can get this man in our drafts. Let's talk what this man did specifically on his stat line in the last 4 years. And okay, he's been in the NFL for 7 years at this point. I want to start, before we dive into these stats, what he has done in committee backfields. We've seen it with the Lat Murray, with the Mark Ingrams, and he still has been putting up massive amount of points and productivity. His attempts line, he held 50.5% of the rush attempts in those committee backfields, 52.2% of the rush yards in those committee backfields, and 61.4% of the TD upside from 2018 to 2020 with an Alvin Kamara, or with a Mark Ingram and a Lat Murray. So the committee backfield should never scare you off. Even if Kendre Miller does turn into something like a Mark Ingram, like a quality, 1-2 punch, thunder and lightning running back situation, this will only help benefit what Alvin Kamara does on the field. Kamara holds 17.3% of the target share over his 7-year career. This is massive. They utilize an Alvin Kamara in the pass game, so I still don't understand why everybody's dogging this man like he's just going to automatically find this cliff of falling off because he just turned 29 here in July. I don't buy it for 1 second. Yes, I understand. We're seeing, statistically speaking, Alvin Kamara see a drop-off year over year over the last 4 years. Completely understand. We're talking even boom rate, man. 93% boom rate, as he did finish as the running back 1 back in 2020. He has never seen the likes of that season since that 2020 season. However, 76.9% in 21. He had 53.3% in 22, and then came back with a vengeance in 2023 with 76.9, finished as the running back 14. He did miss 3 games overall due to that suspension. I mean, okay, he did get hampered with some ankle injuries, I believe, as well. Yes, the stat line didn't look as great in those 13 contests where he was 13 for 180, 694 yards, only 5 TDs, but he caught himself a boatload of receptions, 75 for 466 and 1 touchdown. So the touchdown productivity did go down this past year, but at least we still see that the target share is still going to be very high for an Alvin Kamara. So why are you fading this man, especially where we can draft him? This is still Alvin Kamara's backfield. Even like I'm saying, let's just say that Kendre Miller is going to be that dude, and he's going to be able to come out the gates and be the running back that they thought when they drafted him. This is still okay. He will hold at least at minimum 50%, if not 49% of the workload in the rushing upside and still catch a boatload of passes. We will get into, the depth chart and what they look like right now, but I still love what these Saints can be with an Alvin Kamara because the team didn't do anything necessarily to be overly competitive. That means they will still be playing from behind. A lot of garbage time productivity highly likely coming for an Alvin Kamara. Last year's stat line, 480 attempts for 1742 in yards and 13 rushing TDs. So they did go away from the rushing aptitude early on when Alvin Kamara came back from his suspension. He was playing lights out like a bat out of hell. He was getting you anywhere from 17 to 22 points each and every week, carrying your fantasy clubs, and then he kind of fell off as the fantasy playoffs did come. So you understand why people are sour. They feel that Saints are gonna move in a different direction. I don't foresee that whatsoever, man. His best season, like I said, back in 2020, 336.3 points, 22.4 points per game, and he had 10 top 10 finishes. We won't see that ever again. I'm not going to sit here and lie to y'all and say and promote that Alvin Kamara is going to be the best running back in all fantasy football, because it's likely done and it's past. He hit his once. But I mean, still, 4 top 10 finishes last year, the year prior to that, and then 6 in 2021. So he's still getting you a heaping of point productivity that we can absolutely get behind. But being the running back 14 last year on missing those, 3 games on suspension, missing, I believe, another 2 due to injury. So come on, you got to understand where these stats would have been. He would have been very close to his career totals of about 900 rushing yards if he would have played in those contests. We speak of those injuries. Okay, there's a lot of people that do get scared off with Alvin Kamara due to injuries, and I completely understand. We're talking 2019, going back a few years. He had the knee PCL sprain grade 2. Big problem. We know that he gets nicked up quite a bit, and this is a big concern. 2019 dealt with that ankle sprain as well, grade 1. Okay, it's a pedal ankle sprain. So we will see all of these issues when it comes to Alvin Kamara because it is historic in his injury history without question. 2021 dealt with the knee MCL grade 2 sprain. He missed some time there as well. 2022, he had a chest rib fracture, kept him out of some contests also. And then last year dealt with the ankle sprain once again. So I'm not, saying I know exactly which ankle it was. I'm not doing that much research, but at least we understand that, the base of his injuries are coming from the lower body, from the legs. So the volume. This has probably been why they've always wanted a committee backfield for an Alvin Kamara as well, so they can at least alleviate some of the volume, some of the workload, but he will get his in the pass game. There is no question. Whether or not they want him running the football as much as he does, taking all those hits and punishment to not see his way into the medical room, I think is why the Saints always have tried to promote a committee backfield with an Alvin Kamara, but on the mid-level risk for injury projection here in 2024, I mean, it's warranted. If we're going to say anything negative about an Alvin Kamara, yes, we see the stats going down. Yes, he is 29 years of age. And yes, his body has seen some levels of breakdown and seeing time in the medical room. So I completely understand that part of it when you guys want to dog somebody like an Alvin Kamara. But overall, from the depth chart perspective, there is not a whole heck of a lot because the Saints didn't really do a whole heck of a lot this offseason. Alvin Kamara is still the top dog in this running back room. Yes, they signed Jamal Williams, hoping he was going to be that TD vulture like he was in Detroit. Did not happen, man. Williams only had 106 carries for 306 and 1 TD. Year prior to that, what did he have? 18 touchdown rushes with the Lions. It's not, they're going to continue to attempt it. There is no question. It's between Jamal Williams and a Kendre Miller, who Miller 41 rushing attempts for 156 and 1 touchdown, and already he's injured here in training camp. This is a very big problem. The other one is the Taysom Hill effect. As long as this tight end, running back, quarterback, whatever you want to call him, hybrid player, football player, Taysom Hill, is on the field for 81 attempts for 401 and 4 TDs. He's the vulture, man. And this is another situation where I understand a lot of people are going to criticize an Alvin Kamara where he does not see the goal line upside. I get it, man. It's always outside the 10-yard line, 15-yard line. He's got to dance his way into the end zone to uplift his rushing touchdowns. I completely understand. He did have, I believe, 2 or 3 drops in the red zone, which would have inflated his TDs as well, Kamara I'm speaking of, but I get why people are like, I'm done with this, I don't want it. His point productivity tells you what you need to know, and even though he's not scoring those TDs, and it is extremely frustrating watching Taysom Hill score them and vulture all of Kamara's touchdowns, you still can't fade the fact of what he does on the field. Some downgrades, and I'm going to be fair, like I said, no bias here. Only 20% of his career rush TDs have come in the last 3 years. This is not good, man. You're talking 7-year career and only 20% has come in the last 3 years. Everybody's seeing the downtrend on the TDs, and I completely understand. 34.8% of receiving TDs have come in the last 3 years as well. Not good news. We want to see that number increase as well up into the 40s, 50s. We want to see him utilized in this pass game that much more, and we're going to blame a Derek Carr and this offense right now because it's not enough productivity for an Alvin Kamara in the red zone, especially for this TD upside. They were losing games because they were not utilizing this offense properly. Yes, you got guys like CO2, my dude, Chris Olave, and he's going to be the staple, but who's going to be the secondary piece? It's got to be an Alvin Kamara in this pass game to alleviate a lot of pressure off of Derek Carr, man. 14.9% of the target share in the last 3 years. That's on the downtrend as well, where it has been much higher pre a Derek Carr, so we'll see what it does come down, but the big talk will be on what is Kendre Miller, who's going to take over the role as the secondary running back in this offense. We will see, because it is definitely not specified at this point. For ranking purposes, Like I've been preaching all off season long, this value to return on investment is crazy, and you got to take advantage where you can. This is insanity, man. Running back 17, overall 50 for an Alvin Kamara. Insanity for a guy who can get you anywhere from 15 to 22 points each and every week. Still is the lead running back for these New Orleans Saints. Everyone preaches volume upside. The efficiency rates are still here for an Alvin Kamara. James Cook, running back 15. Kenneth Walker III at 16. David Montgomery 18. Ramondre Stevenson 19. Aaron Jones at 20. So everyone's going to say, yeah, okay, he slotted in at 17 where it's fair. I would take him over Dre. I would take him over Montgomery and Aaron Jones. But you can even make those arguments for James Cook. Even though I'm a huge supporter of what James Cook is likely going to be in this Bills offense once again this season, over the 1,100 yards, TD upside is not necessarily going to be there once again for James Cook unless he breaks in the open field and scores them. That is a caveat. Kenneth Walker does see his own sense of time in the medical room, but I still love me some Kenneth Walker. PPR upside, man. You're talking 65 to 75 receptions, and if he gets in the end zone at least 5 more times, we're talking another top 10 finish for an Alvin Kamara. Yes, David Montgomery is one that we could also suggest. TDs will always uplift his stat line, but Jahmyr Gibbs will eventually start to pull away as the guy in Detroit. So Alvin Kamara with no real reliable running back 2 at running back 17? You got to be kidding me. I'm taking that ADP all day long, laughing all the way to the bank. And overall, what are we talking, man? 29 years of age. We got to talk, man. Age 30 is creeping up for an Alvin Kamara, and I completely understand. We normally see the drop-off for these running backs. Body starts wearing down. He looked good coming off that suspension last year, looked fresh, and was dominating fantasy football running backs without question. What's the future of Derek Carr? This is the biggest question mark. This is likely going to be the last kick of the can. They drafted themselves a Spencer Rattler. Could he potentially be the franchise passer in New Orleans for years to come? Lots of moving parts, lots of questions that we got to have answered. Who's going to quarterback this team and lead them somewhere? We saw Chris Olave, joking in an interview. They asked, did you add enough weapons to be competitive in for the playoffs this season? And Chris Olave said, really, not really. So it's one of those situations. How's the morale with these New Orleans Saints? But we do know garbage time productivity, check down opportunity are going to go to an Alvin Kamara without question. Can Kendre Miller be the guy to take the leap? Man, oh man, I'm a Kendre Miller fan. I am not necessarily a supporter. I think he's got uber talents and, abilities. Will he ever showcase that with high levels of consistency? I got my doubts, man. This guy just can't stay on the field. He's always nicked up. He's always in the medical room. Will he be able to showcase some health at least this year? If he does, I think the 1-2 punch with Miller and Kamara would be a stroke of genius for this offense and would pay high dividends for both these players. We will see how it does go down. But again, three-headed monster likely coming if we're talking Miller does stay healthy. Jamal Williams likely and Taysom Hill being the goal line opportunity backs where a Miller and Kamara would round out the rest of the productivity. So there is issues here. I get it. Four-headed monster, lack of TD upside. I completely understand. But at running back, 18-17, you can't shake this whatsoever. Olave, Shaheed, Taysom Hill, and A.T. Perry. Kamara's still got to be that top 3 target in this offense without question. Olave's going to be number 1. Shaheed's going to see his games from time to time schemed up, but the constant in volume is going to be an Alvin Kamara. Number 2 likely in target share. Majority of weeks, you got to believe. When he was booming at an early on stage, it was 100% boom rate since he came back. I believe, week 4 until week number 10. He was booming every single week for y'all until the end of the season where it did start to taper off. But Olave is the guy number 1, and Kamara is definitely going to stick and be that guy number 2, unless a guy like A.T. Perry and Rashid Shaheed do take off in a very big way. I still think that opens up the door for more efficiency for an Alvin Kamara as well. Kamara, okay, last 4 years, 5,572 yards and 40 total TDs. That's a lot of yards, man, in the last 4 years. So you can't fade this guy for the stuff he's been able to do, even when being injured, missing some time. It hasn't necessarily killed your fantasy club. There is lots of opportunity for him as well. Ranked number 6th in boom rate overall last season, post-suspension. He was killing it even though he did miss time to the injury. He only played in 13 games and still finished as the 6th booming running back. This is very good news. Based on my projections and rankings, He should hit around 78.6 on the projected boom rate, playing in 14 games, 201 attempts, 720 yards, 8 rushing touchdowns. The 8 rushing touchdowns may be a little high. I would even haircut that maybe back down to like 6 or 7, but I think it's fair based on how my model did spit this out. 65 receptions, 410, and 2 receiving TDs. You might even want to flip it where it's 5 to 6 rushing TDs and maybe 4 to 5 receiving TDs coming his way. Either way, this stat line would end up being running back 8 or 9 with 238 points, and you're getting him at a bargain dollar rate at running back 17. I don't understand why y'all fading in Alvin Kamara outside of injuries. This guy's going to boom for us again, and he's going to be an absolute fixture. And I mean, in the mock draft I just did on Monday, I got Alvin Kamara as my running back 3. So that's flex appeal all day long. You don't even have to, you can set it and forget it, and you don't even have to think about it. Alvin Kamara is definitely going to pay dividends, even though we do see some things trending in the wrong direction for the Saints and for an Alvin Kamara. I am still all in, especially on the value. Definitely get yourself Alvin Kamara on your club because he will pay extreme dividends. But there you have it. Nevertheless, as always, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, jump in those comments, give me your thoughts. What are you guys thinking of Alvin Kamara? You drafting him? You faded him? Put it in the comments on why you're doing either, and we can definitely talk it out. But we'll see you next time. I am out.